The base has dropped on a new edition of Soccer Down Here. It's a Thursday, so we're taking your Thursday thoughts throughout the show. You can do that in a variety of ways. You can join us on the Twitch pitch, twitch.tv/Soccer Down Here. We won't bite. People don't bite in the Twitch pitch, typically, unless Newcastle comes up or something and things can get out of hand. Sorry, Alex. We've got also our Twitter at Soccer Down Here that you can send your hashtag Thursday thoughts to. And we got a lot of things for you to think about. Champions League semifinals are set in Europe. MLS is 4 for 4 in getting to the Conca Champions quarterfinals and should go 5 for 5 with Columbus hopefully taking care of their business against Real Esteli tonight. We've got Defensa y Justicia, who won the CONMEBOL Recopa, which is the Super Cup, in one of the most bonkers games you'll find, with a brawl in the tunnel in extra time, which is always good. Defensa wins it on penalties. It's their second trophy ever. We'll talk about that. We'll also get into anything else on your mind. We'll have an MLS Western Conference preview at 10:30 with Nico Moreno of Pulso Sports in Seattle. He will fill us in on everything going on with the Sounders, because they're one of the teams that could look very different in 2021. And we'll get Nico's thoughts on the rest of the Western Conference. We are blessed with the presence of Jarrett Smith this morning. Possibly, anyway. It's a rumor.
Blessed is a word that, man, blessed is an interesting word to use here.
It's a Thursday. I'm feeling generous, Jarrett. Take it.
And you're feeling generous because Defensa y Justicia has completed their glow up.
Mm-hmm. You win the Copa Sudamericana.
I'm mad at you for that, but
you get the Sudamericana. You get the Recopa. You beat the team that everybody in our Discord hates, Toronto, and was actively hoping for all the red cards and all the mistakes from Toronto last night, even when they are getting past León, the defending Mexican champions. That kind of hatred, I've got it for Palmeiras, and it showed last night. I mean, it's like anything they could fly off the handle about and complain about, they did. You have a brawl in the tunnel. I mean, it's
I was going to ask about that.
Everything. It was madness. I mean, they got a VAR penalty, which they absolutely deserved, and both benches had been chirping all the time. We don't know exactly what happened to lead to it, but they end up down in the tunnel brawling. The police have to come and separate them. Brian Romero gets red carded. It was nuts. But no, Defensa, it's an amazing story, and I shared a tweet from a South American journalist earlier about how you've got a couple teams that we've talked about a good bit here on the show, and Defensa y Justicia and Independiente del Valle of Ecuador, that are small clubs, very humble clubs from South America, who are doing big, big things. Those are your last two Copa Sudamericana winners, Independiente del Valle and Defensa y Justicia. They don't spend a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money to spend. They develop players, but they play in a way that is very appealing to the eye. Defense has been able to do that with a number of different managers. It's Sebastian Becasese again now, and he gets his first big trophy, the second trophy for the club. So these are two clubs that going into the Copa Libertadores you will want to watch. And Independiente del Valle had a big night last night. They beat Gremio, and they go into the group stage of the Libertadores. That was not expected. That was a big upset. Just to keep an eye on the Libertadores as now the matches are set and the groups are set. After what happened over these two legs with Palmeiras and Defensa y Justicia, and Defensa winning the Recopa, they're in the same group in the Libertadores. So you're going to get two more games between them in pretty quick succession. There might be more brawls in the tunnel. You might want to mark those games down to watch for sure. But let's get into CONCACAF yesterday, too. Toronto with a huge win, a huge result. It's a very important result for MLS, and it's not playing very well on the Mexican side of things for their champions to lose to a Toronto team that was pretty decimated by injury. It has a new manager in Chris Armas. You know, I mean, maybe we should be looking at Toronto a little more closely as a team in the Eastern Conference to pay attention to, John.
Yeah, and, you know, with all the absences you had last night, you had guys like Jacob Schaffelberg and Luke Singh. helping you out. And Chris Armas gave a lot of credit to Singh anchoring down at the back. And, maybe what we were thinking, we're premature in putting any kind of dirt on anything with Toronto. Yes, I know it's one game, and yes, I know the sample size is small, but when you can get a result like you got last night against Leon, you sit there and it's like, okay, so now we have another piece of evidence to work in the evidence case when it comes to Toronto as you head into both the next round for CONCACAF Champions League and for the MLS season.
And then Jarrett, Philadelphia took care of business against Saprissa. I don't think there was really much of a concern about this. Saprissa is maybe at their worst in at least a decade, maybe more. It's just not a strong Saprissa team. And Philadelphia is a strong team, and I think they showed that, and that sets up the all-MLS quarterfinal with Atlanta and Philly. What are you worried about, Jarrett? You're the one who's always worrying.
Oh, Jesus. It's going to be fun. That was the thing. It's like, yeah, Saprissa is not his name carries more weight than the team right now. You know the name Saprissa when you think about,
He's worrying so much his phone won't even be able to hold up.
Yes.
It's that much worry for Jarrett Smith. We'll get Jarrett back on here shortly. Big win for Philly again, as expected. Club America had to sweat it out against Olympia, who did get the win last night at the Estadio Azteca, but they go out on away goals to Club America. Should be fine. They should be okay.
Favored. Yeah, no, I'm getting there.
Okay. Hey, I couldn't hear anything you said, Jarrett, because your phone was cutting you out.
Beginning,
go back to your thoughts on Philadelphia and Saprissa and why you're afraid about the quarterfinals.
Jesus.
Got it again.
Round 2.
Yeah. Saprissa is not the same team they were. This isn't the same Saprissa that you know and love from CONCACAF Champions League in the past. They're kind of a shadow. Took Philadelphia a little bit of time to break them down, but once they broke them down, the floodgates kind of flew open. I think it was Ives Galarcep said last night, I like the way you phrased it, and that I agree with it, that Philadelphia is going to come into this favored, as they should.
They should.
They have, Jim Curtin's got a system installed there. They've got a lot of returning guys. But if you think for a second that Atlanta's not going to come in there, with a couple knives in the hands, razor blades under the cheek, ready to throw down, I got some news for you, because they will. Atlanta's not going to roll over. This isn't. You might think of this as oh man, we're underdogs. I can't see this working out. I promise you, they don't have that. The team does not share your mentality. It should be a fantastic draw, and I look forward. I think it'll be a blast.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing for the league. These are the kinds of draws that get John's beloved England excited when you get two English teams playing deep into a Champions League. Oh, the Daily Mail and everybody else is in a full-blown tizzy about it. Here, tizzy. I'm afraid it won't get the hype that it should. It will on this show, I can tell you that much. It should, because it's a big deal for Major League Soccer to have a team that won their Supporters' Shield last year in Philadelphia facing a team that, they got in because there wasn't an Open Cup last year. So what? They beat the best team outside of Mexico and MLS in the round of 16, and they have a lot of excitement about a new manager, a lot of new faces, the return of Joseph Martinez. This is a matchup that has all the storylines, all the excitement, could be a rivalry that decides the Eastern Conference this year, and it needs the hype. I know Columbus, Monterrey, if that ends up being the matchup, which it should, that's going to get a lot of hype, and it'll be a big deal. You've got others.
It's Club America. I mean, you've got this is going to be a fantastic quarterfinal. This is going to be absolutely amazing for every game across the board.
No, you've got plenty of very interesting matchups, but Atlanta, Philadelphia is huge. Huge. Philadelphia is the favorite. I don't think there's any real dispute about that. When you're comparing what we know about these teams from the beginning of last season on, Philadelphia won a Supporters' Shield. Atlanta didn't. Atlanta has a lot of new faces, still getting to know what this team is. Now, I think people looking at score lines and comparing Alajuelense and Saprissa like they're equal are missing the point, because Alajuelense is far better than Saprissa and a much, much better team than Saprissa. they've dominated Saprissa in domestic play. They're just the better team. So that's not equal to say that, oh, well, Philadelphia won by X and Atlanta won by X and blah, blah, blah. No, that's not the same comparison. That doesn't work. But Philadelphia is the favorite coming in. Do we have juice box numbers on this yet, John?
No, we do not.
Yeah,
we only have tonight's.
They should be the favorite. They will be the favorite. That's no slight on Atlanta. That's just a reality of where the teams are in perception right now. It's probably where it should be. You got a couple of games to get ready for this.
I feel like we literally had this conversation yesterday, but we can have it again.
Sure.
If you're comparing what Portland did to Marathon to Alajuelense, let's just go ahead and replace Marathon with Saprissa, because both of them are not as good as what Alajuelense is right now compared to what you think about with Saprissa and Marathon. Think about it and Jason, correct me, stop me if I'm being too harsh.
Mm-hmm.
Think of it in the sense of like a DC United or LA Galaxy. You know the name, and you're thinking, if you were paying attention 10 years ago, you're thinking, oh, damn, I want nothing to do with that. No, you actually do right now, because the name is heavier than the team at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's a bunch of clubs who get kind of lumped into that boat where they fall on hard times and they are not what they used to be. When you see that name come up, it's like, ooh, oh no, and then you look at it like, wait a minute, no, this is fine, and that's kind of how Philadelphia handled this, and it's how Saprissa looked. They just didn't look all that impressive in this matchup with Philly. So we have the CONCACAF Champions League quarterfinals almost set. The two games tonight are pretty much decided. Columbus looking at Real Esteli, and they should be fine. They do have a bunch of injuries. They are looking ahead to playing in their MLS opener on the weekend. They've got to balance minutes. They've got some things that they're going to have to juggle, which won't be easy. Caleb Porter has talked about they would like to rest some players for the match with Philadelphia on Sunday, but right back, for example, Harrison Offal, missing. Marlon Hairston, missing. Derek Etienne, a winger, was playing the position. He sprained an ankle. He's probably out for both games this week. Who's going to play right back? No clue. You got nobody who makes a lot of sense to play there. You're probably going to have to move the left back over to that side, and that's not really how Caleb Porter typically plays, but that's all you can do. And then that means you're going to have to play both of your left backs, Waylon Francis and Milton Valenzuela, probably 90 minutes here, which could affect them for Sunday, which is a quick turn against Philadelphia. So Caleb Porter's got some things to deal with here, but he's got a huge lead. He said all the right things. We want to win. We don't want them to get any momentum, blah, blah, blah. They could walk through this game. They could walk through it. It's really nothing to worry about. Real Esteli is one of the weakest teams in the tournament. They'll be fine. They could play somebody way out of position at right back and be just fine if they want to rest everybody. The other game tonight is Monterrey and Atletico Pantoja. We've talked about this one before. There's really nothing new on it. Monterrey should be a commanding favorite, I'm assuming.
Minus 2,000.
Yeah.
Atletico Pantoja is a plus 2250, and your draw is just north of plus 1,000.
Yeah, so really nothing to worry about there. In Europe yesterday, Champions League had a lot of different things to dig into. Liverpool is out. Real Madrid did the business somehow, and they remain unbeaten over a long stretch. Zinedine Zidane has got the duct tape, the paper clips, the masking tape. He's had to use chewing gum at times to hold this thing together.
He's MacGyvered this one completely.
He has somehow done it, and Real Madrid has gotten past Liverpool. Liverpool really didn't threaten a whole lot here. Courtois had a couple of saves early. He had some periods of pressure, but not really any big chances in the second 45. Real Madrid deservedly goes through. In the other side, Manchester City did have to sweat it. Go ahead, Jarrett.
It felt very much like the, not with a bang, but with a whimper after the first 15 minutes of that game.
Yeah, and I mean, I saw people saying, well, if we had fans, then we would get through. It already be up 3-0. No. No, nobody's playing with fans right now, so that's really an incorrect narrative, because what would Real Madrid have done if they had had fans when they had Liverpool on the ropes in Leg 1, and then we start playing the what-if game, and that's not really how we do this. Manchester City didn't have to play the what-if game and try to figure out what went wrong. They were able to get the win. They fell behind early. Jude Bellingham, amazing goal for Dortmund. Manchester City pushes everything through. A somewhat controversial decision on a handball, Emre Can, with VAR getting involved. I think it's the right call because his arm is so far extended and he heads it down into his own arm. He shouldn't get like some kind of immunity because he headed it down into his own arm that was way out from his body. He did that intentionally with the header because he didn't lay out. He didn't have a diving header to head it away. He tries to lean and he heads it into himself. Like that's on him. Like you don't get a bonus for that. The idea that, well, if it comes off his head and it goes to his arm, that means it's okay. That's not actually what the laws of the game say. That's not what it is. Coco, you're hating. I understand. I know where your hatred is coming from. I got it. We're not even talking about Toronto and Coco's hating, but it's just how it goes. It's just the facts of the laws of the game. I'm sorry. It's a handball. Phil Foden makes it not matter at all anyway with a beautiful goal. And Manchester City is through to face PSG. Champions League schedule, April 27th, Tuesday, Real Madrid hosting Chelsea in Leg 1. Next day, PSG hosting Manchester City. Second legs, Tuesday, May 4th, City hosting PSG. May 5th, Chelsea hosting Real Madrid. We know the Final Four. Who wins this thing, Jarrett Smith?
You mean the whole Champions League?
Yes.
Or, damn it, I don't know. I'm really tempted to say PSG just for no good reason except irresponsibility and the fact that they're actually capable of, especially now that they got Bayern Munich. Like, part of me wants to believe PSG might actually be able to do this. Of course, what that means is that PSG is going to absolutely lay an egg in the next round.
Okay, let's get into this really quick, John, before I get yours, about this handball.
Yeah.
Byrne throws in on the Twitch pitch that the German media is freaking out. They say it was a bad call, front page of kicker, et cetera, et cetera. It is a gray area, but the idea that, and this is back to something we've talked about this week before, where we need some clarification on how IFAB, FIFA competitions want these things to be called. Because a lot of people cited the idea like, oh, well, if it comes off of your head and it goes to your hand, then everything's fine. You can't call that. And then it's like, well, that's not exactly what the law says. So can we get some clarification, please? Can we make these laws a little more clear? Because we now have replay, and now we're going to see this over and over and over again. And people are watching, people involved in the game are watching it back. People are confused. So we need to get some clarification. If you haven't seen it, Emre Can goes to head it. The ball comes off his head, goes into his arm. His arm is way stretched out from his body. If it had went straight into his arm, it would have been a handball. No question. The referee judged that Can touches the ball with his hand arm and it made his body unnaturally bigger. And then people ask about the clauses for deflecting off the body or when the player is deliberately playing the ball. Dale Johnson of ESPN has a great breakdown of this. He's great with referee stuff. There's a couple things to it. If the player deliberately plays the ball and the arm is above shoulder level, that can still be a handball. So if you try to play the header and your arm's up over your head or over above your shoulder and it hits it, that can be a handball. This one is a little weird because of the idea, is his arm above shoulder level? Well, his arm is above his shoulder, but his shoulder is pointing down. So are people going to say, well, no, actually his arm is below his waist, so no, it's not a handball. And then people are going to say, well, his arm is extended up, it's just he's facing down, so it's a handball. I kind of lean to the latter because, I mean, it gives you a weird out otherwise. Like, he's in a weird position, but his arm, if that ball hit his arm directly, it's a handball. Mm-hmm. It's a handball. it's the deflection deliberate play thing doesn't automatically rule it out. It becomes interpretation. Did the defender make a deliberate play? Is the defender's arm above shoulder level? And is the defender's arm in a natural position for his movement? There's no way that's a natural position for movement. There's no way his arm out like that is natural position for movement. You can argue about the shoulder level thing. I think it is because it's like this, except he's facing down.
Yeah.
His arm goes above the shoulder that the arm is attached to. That's kind of the important thing, you know? Like, I don't think we're judging it by where his waist is or which way he's facing. If his arm is above the shoulder level of where the arm is attached, I think it has to be determined that it's above shoulder level. And he definitely made a deliberate play on it, so there's no way around it. But this interpretation, we need more on it. This needs to be a little more clear. To me, it feels like a handball. It feels like it should be a handball. It ultimately doesn't matter here in a big way because you get the goal from Foden. You're in good shape after that. Going backwards, Jude Bellingham's goal made it 2-2. But at that point, Dortmund had the away goal, so they were in the lead. Let's take the goal out of it from the penalty. Phil Foden's goal, you're good. So it didn't change it, but it is an argument to have back and forth. It did change the momentum of the game. We all know game state, and we all know all of that. Curious what you guys think out there watching. If anybody has tweeted about the handball situation, let me know. I'd love to get your takes on it. I think, we get into this feeling with offside. We get into this with other situations where we're going by feel, and it feels like that should be a handball because he's in an unnatural position. He's in an awkward position. And just because he headed it into his own arm doesn't mean he should get away with it because he gained an advantage from it. And he deliberately played the ball, and his arm was deliberately extended. So I think you have to call that a handball. If you're trying to not call it a handball, I think you're looking for the letter of the law, not the intent feel of the law. Coco says John's head wasn't in the game after that play. That's on him. Yeah, he was kind of emotional about that. And I think his reaction tells you a lot about should it be a handball. I mean, he knew he made a mistake. He could have handled that play differently, and he didn't. And he brought this into play. And I think you have to make that call. It is interpretation. It is down to judgment. And it's a tough one. But I think they got it right, ultimately. And they did have to use VAR. And it did take a while. And yeah, because it's a weird interpretation. It's not an easy call. Chara says Emre Can was a disaster over 2 legs. Dortmund's got to reload a little bit. They say they're fine financially. We'll see if they don't qualify for Champions League. We'll see if that changes, what kind of actions they take. That's one area they do need to upgrade on. They're going to have to figure out what they do with Erling Haaland, obviously, but also Jadon Sancho. There's going to be people who come in for Bellingham. There's going to be people who come in for Reina. There's going to be people who come in for all these young talents. What do they end up doing now? Do they cash in and reload, or do they move forward? We'll have to see. But Manchester City, I thought, showed some guts here. Mm-hmm. They were in a bad spot going into halftime, and I saw a lot of tweets saying, all right, this is the statement. What do they do? Well, they came out and took care of business. I think you have to give City a little bit of credit there on the intestinal fortitude that they showed, John.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was what I saw in watching the match yesterday after looking at Liverpool not able to do anything against Real Madrid. I admit that I shifted my viewing habits over to Manchester City. And at the half, after Jude Bellingham puts the ball in the back of the net, you're sitting there going, okay, this is, all right, Manchester City, what are you going to do? And they put their big boy shorts on and got it done. And so now that you've gotten into the semis, all right, you're out of the quarters now. You're into the semifinals. You've got PSG. And so a lot of folks saw what PSG did in the last round. It's like, okay, here's another stern test for you. And where do you go from here? Manchester City, the expectation level's there. And it's like, all right, so let's see what you got now. And that's what we have now in the semifinals. We have early juice boxes, by the way.
Okay, what do we have?
Real Madrid is a plus 134 against Chelsea at home. Draws a plus 229, and this is just for the matchup. Chelsea is a plus 221. PSG at home is a plus 204. Your draw is a plus 275. And Manchester City at the Stade de France is a plus 124 in the first one.
That feels really stupid. I would love to see Manchester City win this. They are the team that plays the best soccer, in my opinion. They're the ones that I would be pulling for here. I'm surprised they're an underdog here. I'm very, very surprised they're an underdog. I don't get that. The other one, Real Madrid and Chelsea, Real Madrid's faced Chelsea more often without winning than any other side in their entire history. 3 times in competition, 1 draw, 2 losses. This is the first time they've met in Champions League, though. Real Madrid should get Hazard, Dani Carvajal, Rafael Varane back and fully fit. We'll have to wait on Sergio Ramos to see, but they will be more fit. And Jarrett, how about Eden Hazard facing Chelsea in the Real Madrid shirt?
It's got plenty of narrative to it, doesn't it? And I know are you? I know you just said about City. Are you still on the Chelsea's going to win it all wagon, or you're allowed to change? So I just want to know where we're at.
I do think Chelsea has the best pathway because, yes. And that was where I've been on it, is they can beat a depleted Madrid team because they'll still be somewhat depleted. And you get into a final because I don't know if City gets past PSG. Like, I think City plays the best soccer of the group. So they're the ones that I'm going to be pulling for as a neutral here. The others are all kind of defend and counter. But I don't know if City gets past PSG because PSG can exploit the way City plays really well. I think Chelsea in a one-off, in a final, can absolutely find the way to win the game. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm fine with them still being the favorite to win this thing. I had them getting to the final for sure because I think they have the easiest path. I'd like to see City win because I like the way that they try to play and the way they approach the game, but Chelsea can get there with less sweat, I think, even though Madrid, and look, we all keep underestimating Zinedine Zidane, me too. They keep finding a way. I don't know if they've played somebody as well as Chelsea who can do what Real Madrid's done to other teams. Sit and defend, hit on the break. Chelsea can do that and make Madrid come and play. And if Madrid gets past Chelsea, I think it's going to be because of an exceptional turn-back-the-clock performance from Luka Modric, Toni Kroos. That midfield is going to have to step up for Madrid. And I do think they're going to need something from Eden Hazard. They're going to need that kind of a wild card. I don't think they get past Chelsea, though. I think it is Chelsea and PSG in the final. As much as I'd like to see City with the way they play, I think it's Chelsea and PSG. And PSG being plus 200 at home, that feels like a bad set of odds for a juice box purveyor.
Yeah.
That's weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've said that I thought that Manchester City was going to win it. And I know that Jason, you looked at the bracket where I looked at what I'd like to see. And I will continue to maintain that you're looking at the bracket had a boatload of logic attached to it in getting Chelsea to a final. And I think in a one-off, if Chelsea gets past Real Madrid, then Thomas Tuchel will be prepared for it, whoever he faces, if it's PSG or if it's Manchester City. Manchester City, for me, like I said, this is where you dust yourself off. It's another one of those tests that everybody is waiting for. So how do you respond to this one? And how does PSG respond? Do we get the PSG that we've seen recently, or do we get the one that was in league play that stubbed their toe and, has those moments that we all almost kind of expect at times when they sit there and trip over themselves? So, frankly,
I would never bet on PSG, though.
Right.
For that very reason.
Exactly.
I have no idea what's going to happen with them.
Right, and so I would avoid PSG entirely. I'll just sit and watch PSG and Manchester City and look at your Chelsea selection for the other semifinal.
If I was somebody who liked to throw juice boxes around, that PSG number would absolutely get me excited. At home against City in this match, I think even if you think City can win the tie, which they can, I think PSG at home to be plus 200.
Yeah.
That's a little disrespectful to PSG. I mean, you can talk about them being up and down, et cetera, et cetera. They just beat Bayern Munich. So, I mean, I think you got to put a little bit of respect on Paris's name right now.
Before we throw too much dirt on the grave of, as you're talking about City, before we throw too much dirt on the grave of Borussia Dortmund, I do want to shout them out for taking City to the wire and getting nothing from Erling Haaland in the process.
True.
It's not like they took them to the limit and Erling Haaland had a hat trick. The man didn't score. The kid didn't score. Sorry. Don't even know if he's had his bar mitzvah yet. Kid didn't score, and they took City into the late rounds. So shout out to Borussia Dortmund, because I think I had mentioned I didn't think they had a chance unless Haaland just went Nova, and he didn't, and they still traded jabs really well.
Yeah, 100%. They were good, and you got a bunch of their other kids stepping up in this. And I mean, Jude Bellingham's going to be a star if he's not already. I'll be very curious to see where the bidding starts for him when that day comes. Burned on PSG or on Chelsea and Real Madrid. I think Tuchel's going to sit and let Madrid have the ball, different from what he does in the league. That's exactly where my head was. And then try to hit him on the counter with Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Christian Pulisic. That, I think, is the right approach here, because I think it makes it more difficult for Madrid. If you try to carry the play against Madrid, they can take some things away from you. If they have to carry the play, I think you can find some of the frailties in that team. I am still doubting Madrid. I'm sorry, Ricky Ricardo. I am. I think Chelsea is the better team, and they're the healthier team right now. Yeah. And I think that's going to be as big of a part of this as anything. And I think Tuchel's the better manager. I do. I think in these situations, he will find the right approach to take care of business. I think Zinedine Zidane's done an amazing job with a shorthanded team and a ton of injuries. I just don't think he can get over the line here. It's not a knock. It's not saying anything bad about him or bad about what Madrid's done. It's just you're down to the Final Four and you're facing the best. And I think Chelsea and Tuchel is the best right now in this group.
And just as equally important as all of this information that we put out for the matchup this morning, my losing streak in the pool at least 7 came to an end with Liverpool and Real Madrid.
Because you picked a draw?
Because I picked a draw.
Yeah, that seems about right. Your losing streak ends with a draw. It seems about right.
Yeah. That's very Big Sam of me, isn't it?
Yeah, very. Jimmy Vance is pulling for anybody but City. I know. I get it. But they play good soccer. They just do. I did share a piece from Aiden Osman Basic, who is one of the video analysts with Atlanta United, but also does a ton of things in digging into tactics and trying to make them make sense for folks. And he digs into the 3-2-2-3, kind of the way that Pep Guardiola's Manchester City has looked a lot here lately. I just shared that on my Twitter at Longshoe. It's a pretty good read. It's long. It's very detailed. It is very complex in the way that this system plays, and he breaks it down really deep. But it's absolutely worth a read if you get a chance to dig into the way that City approaches games. Will says PSG and City will be drunk as all get out.
Yeah.
That's an old
That's what I'm
phrase.
thinking.
I like that. I like that a lot. Byrne thinks Mbappe is going to kill those City center backs on the counter. Stones is not good enough for that. That's where I think PSG can handle it, because City, like we talked about with Chelsea and Real Madrid, Tuchel will take the approach that makes the sense for the game here, because he's fine with doing that, even though he is a positional play guy, and there's a lot of things in the way that he can approach games that are very positive, very good. Sitting back and playing on the counter is not negative per se, because he is wanting to get out and score goals, but he's going to let Madrid carry the play. Pep will never let anybody carry the play against him. It's outside of his DNA. In this game, he probably needs to, but he's going to do what he does, and he's going to play, and he's going to get everybody forward, and it's going to be a high line, and Mbappe and Neymar can break that. They can. They are probably the best duo at dealing with playing against a team like City will play. City's going to have to be outstanding. They have it in them. They do. But they also have what happened to Bayern Munich in them, where you get boat raced by killing Mbappe with his pace. That's a scary situation. So I can't wait to see how it plays out. The other game, from a neutral perspective, I don't think Chelsea-Madrid will be a lot of fun for the neutral in terms of the way the games play out. I think the drama will be fun, but the quality and the excitement level of the games maybe not as high. City PSG could be really, really drunk as all get out. It could be a lot of fun. Why are your eyes bugging out, John? What are you doing?
Well, no, I was looking at the schedule and looking at schedule compression for Manchester City between now and basically May the 12th. This weekend, you have the FA Cup semifinal with Chelsea. Then midweek, week from yesterday, on the 21st, you've got Aston Villa. Then the 25th, on Sunday, you have the EFL Cup final against Spurs. Midweek,
okay.
PSG leg one.
Okay, there we go.
Come back on May the 1st, you've got Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Then midweek again, you've got leg two against PSG.
Yeah, fine.
Then you come back May the 8th, and you've got Chelsea.
So you got games. Everybody's got games. But, John, Manchester City has the league. It's done. How big of a lead do they have?
Let's see. It was 14 last I checked.
Okay, if it's 14, if it's 15, if it's 16, if it's 20, 11. If it's 12, I don't care. They've got the league.
More than a match.
They've got the league, right?
Yeah.
So do they have to worry about Crystal Palace in between legs?
No.
Can they play their U23s in that game?
You would hope.
Can they play their U20s?
You would hope.
Their U12s?
I hope so.
Okay.
I want to see a U12 kid score against Roy Hodgson.
Yes, I could care less about Crystal Palace in that one for City. They'll handle that. The game before is the little bit tricky one, the Gummy Bear Cup final, correct?
Yes.
Because that's the weekend before leg one, right? Right?
Yes.
Everything before that, don't really care because the league is fine.
Yep.
So you gotta play, if you are Pep, for that final. You got to go to Paris in the first leg, and you got to take care of business there. You can't fall behind in a big way. You can rest everybody against Palace and go with your first choice after that. What does PSG have? Because unlike City, PSG doesn't have any lock on any titles in France right now. They've got to compete in league play in between the legs. They can't rest anybody in that game because they're not even secure for being in the Champions League next year because of the way the race is in Ligue 1.
Right. All right. So here's what it looks like for PSG. League play this weekend, French Cup quarterfinal on the 21st.
Give me the next weekend.
Let's see. Before leg one, it's a game at Metz on the 24th.
Metz is 10th in the table on 43 points. It's at Metz. It doesn't really matter who you're playing if you're PSG because the table right now with 6 weeks left, Lille is 3 points clear at the top. PSG's in second on 66. Monaco is 1 point back, and where it gets scary is Lyon is 2 points back. And Lyon is not in a Champions League spot because France gets 3, not 4. So you can't punt anything in league play. Even if you're playing 10th place Metz, you got to go all out and try to win that game. Metz is struggling right now. They've lost 4 of their last 5. What do you have in between the legs?
In between the legs is a home game with Lens.
You get 5th place Lens in that one, who is unbeaten in their last 5. PSG has a harder road because of that. They don't have a cup final beforehand, even though it is the Gummy Bear Cup. It is still a cup final. Pep likes trophies. So Pep looks at it with 3 finals essentially in a week and a half's time. PSG has 4 because they can't afford to punt on those league games. They just can't. So that could come into play for leg 2. I think Pep's going to have to manage leg 1 in a big way and keep it where it needs to be so City can take care of business in leg 2 where PSG might be a little fatigued physically and mentally. A9 Shifter
Gwen disagrees so strongly.
Gwen very much disagrees. Gwen thinks Pep can do whatever he wants and they can play whatever they want, and she has no fear about Manchester City doing anything here. And and not having any problems. She thinks they'll be just fine, and I should stop worrying, and I should get a
Bring
dog.
in the U12s against Crystal Palace. I want to see it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. A9 Shifter says City versus PSG is the final. I agree with that in terms of the hype.
Yeah.
The winner of that semifinal will win the Champions League. I don't know about that. But in terms of the hype and the excitement, yeah, City and PSG is going to get all the pulses racing all over Europe. Gustavo's coming in to talk a little bit of trash. Gustavo says, I'm with Real Madrid and PSG because it annoys Jason. I have work, so I won't listen to Jason's take on Bekasese. Ode to Bekasese. Ha ha. I like that John Nelson is giving his own opinions. I mean, they're wrong, but yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
They're incorrect.
It hasn't stopped anything in the past.
Yeah, I guess. Let's see. Byrne talking about City's approach. Yeah, City's not going to sit back here. It's just not what Pep's going to do. It's just not. I don't think, Chara, I think that gets overplayed a lot with the idea that Pep overthinks it. Does Pep get it wrong sometimes? Yeah. But it's worked for him pretty well, too. You know, it's not like he's Pochettino, to be perfectly honest. I mean, Pep's got trophies. Pep's got a lot of them. I love Pochettino as a manager. I love what he can be. He's not really showing it a lot with PSG yet, but he's got one trophy under his belt that he won in France that he kind of walked into. That's it. You know, if you're talking like managers and making the right moves, I'm betting on Pep every time. It doesn't mean he gets it right every time, but I think he gets it right far more often than he gets credit for. The idea about the lineup, it feels like the whole thought about, a 2-0 lead is the most dangerous lead in soccer. You just remember the times that it failed. You don't remember the times where he puts Messi as a false nine, which he hadn't done before, and he had the idea the day before the game, and he brings Messi in to talk about it and says, this is what you can do against Real Madrid in El Clasico, and they go out and demolish Real Madrid. We don't talk about those when we get into these situations. It's just, it failed one time. It failed two times. It worked a whole bunch of times too. So I think Pep will be fine with that. I think he's got a system that's working, and they've been fairly consistent. Domer is all about Chelsea and PSG in the final. Tuchel's revenge. That's going to have to get some of that.
Yeah, that's when you put in the horror music drop at that point.
Yes,
Tuchel's revenge. Dun dun dun.
Yes. We'll see, Ricky. Ricky says Madrid hasn't been winning all these games by letting another team give them the ball and carry the game. I mean, then what we'll have is two teams saying, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it, I don't want it. Somebody's going to say, I want it. Somebody's going to say, all right, fine, I'll take the ball and we'll try to play with it. If Tuchel and Zidane just have a ping pong match in leg one, okay, that's fine. I still think Chelsea will find a way through. I don't know what Zidane can do about that, to be honest. I think they will try to carry the game at some point. We'll see. Katie is hoping that Manchester City rests everybody in the Gummy Bear Cup. Rest them all.
Yes.
Full disclosure, Katie is hoping Spurs win a trophy.
Uh-huh.
We'll see. If I'm City, I'm not worried about the league games right now. I'm resting people. I do worry about winning that trophy because they want to, because they always want all the trophies. They have the potential to win 4. They're in a pretty good spot to win 4. They're in the Gummy Bear Cup final. They've got the league. They're in the semifinals here. They're in a really good spot.
Yeah, it's just, I'm still looking at Manchester City, focusing on the domestic trophies, and I know that.
No, you're being Debbie Downer is what you're doing, right?
No, I said no. What? No, I know that when we were discussing what was going to happen with Manchester City, I think we all were all in agreement that they were going to get 3 of the possible quad. Yeah,
because it's hard to get 4.
Right.
It's difficult, yes. But it's not like 3 out of the 4 is bad.
I know. It's a horrible year.
What are you talking about?
You got 3 trophies.
You lost a trophy and you won 3. Oh, no.
Mm-hmm.
That's awful.
Yes.
Wait a minute. That kind of sounds familiar. I'm having flashbacks to 2019. If you win 3 trophies, you're going to be pretty happy with it. You've got the league, which is the most important one. It always is. So you've got that. You're going to be fine with that. If you split the other trophies, whatever. If you win Champions League in the league and you lose the other two, you're not going to care. No. You're going to be just fine. Somebody will try to write something about how Pep blew it and could have won 4 trophies, and he only won the league and Champions League if that happens. But, okay.
Not looking at the 3 that you won, but the 1 that you lost, one of them being Champions League, in theory.
Yes, potentially. It's not an easy road for them, though. Byrne thinks City's just not very clinical this season. They don't have that Aguero up top to bury things, so it's like Bayern without Lewandowski. It feels a little lacking at times, and it does. I do want to see what Pep does to deal with that. I think maybe they have looked their best without that figure with De Bruyne in that false 9 situation, and I wonder if that is the play here to try to throw PSG off, get him moving around, try to open up that space. City can do it. They've got the ability to do it, but can they do it against a PSG that, look, we'll just wait for the turnover and then go. Boom, rockets off. And they will be going with Mbappe and Neymar. It's tough. It's going to be an interesting one. I can't wait to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Nick Alifi is going back to Jarrett Smith's greatest hits with the Tuchel for school line. Is he still Tuchel for school, Jarrett Smith?
In the league, sure. In Champions League, I'm not supporting Chelsea winning this round, much less the Champions League. So,
Nick Alifi's also talking trash about me missing my pick yesterday because I was hoping for a Real Madrid goal. It's not that big of a deal, John. You win 1 out of 6.
Things like that happen. We have to capitalize
on
the opportunity.
It's fine. John's cackling like he's gotten more than like 1 out of 8 right. It's okay. It's all good.
I will take the 1 out of
you picked
probably
a draw,
more
yippee.
than 8 right.
Yippee. It's all good. It's all good. It happens. We'll see how the rest of the week goes. We're like 2 games in.
Everything's fine for John. Have you seen the way he does his math on his picks? He's making money this way.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it's legal the way he's doing it, though. But, yeah, weird stuff.
I would run the worst casino ever. Go out of business after about 3 months.
And no, Nick.
Come up with this weird odds for everything, and then I would be the only one to win in my modified Stableford betting system.
But you'd
then
be
I
the
just
house.
Close, get all the money and leave.
But you wouldn't, because your modified Stableford whatever thing would have given everybody their money back, so you'd have no money.
And then that's when you leave and you go to another country and you set up another business and you set up another casino.
You'd be broke. You wouldn't have any money to set up another casino. What are you talking about? Anyway,
Nicole's not listening to you right now.
I know. I'm completely baffled. And Nick, no, you can't cut a promo when you miss 7 in a row. At least it could have been more, and then you get on a draw. No, you cut no promos.
Sometimes a blind squirrel. One of those promos.
No. No.
A hot crowd.
This is more like
yes, it was
a Bray Wyatt sort of, you can see the mountain, but you're never going to get to the mountaintop, right? That's the way things stand.
John hits on a scoreless draw, the John special. Thank you, Ricky. That is absolutely it.
It's a very big Sam of me.
Yeah, that is absolutely it. All right. Let's get into a few other things because the MLS media is starting to ramp up their previews. We're going to talk to Nico Moreno of Pulso Sports at 10:30 to talk Western Conference. But let's start with Andrew Wiebe's predictions for MLS awards because I think we can knock this out before hour number 1 is over. Comeback Player of the Year, Andrew picks Joseph Martinez. Carlos Vela, Sebastian Blanco, Carlos Heel, and Edison Flores are the other candidates. For me, it's Joseph or Blanco. Those are the two. I mean, Vela's not coming back from anything too major, and he finished the year last year, so I don't think so. And Heel played a decent bit late, so I'm not putting him in it. I don't think DC is going to be good enough for Flores to get that. If Joseph does what we think he can do, then yeah, he can absolutely be comeback player of the year. I think Sebastian Blanco is his strongest competitor for that trophy.
Yep, right there with you.
Newcomer of the year, Andrew goes with Alexandre Pato, which is going to be very, very interesting.
That's bold.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Other candidates, Tomas Pochettino and Cecilio Dominguez of Austin, Ramon Avila of Minnesota, Brenner of Cincinnati, Alan Franco of Atlanta. What say you, Jarrett?
Give me Brenner. That's where my head was at with it. I don't hate Pato as a pick. I'm not totally against Wiebe on this. I'm worried that he stays in one piece.
John?
Yeah, I like the Brenner idea. Also Pochettino, for me, would have been my second. Avila would have been a part of the discussion. I like his other candidates more than I do his actual selection. I'll go with Brenner, too.
Ramon Avila is going to be the newcomer of the year because he's going to score a lot of goals for Minnesota. I do think Santiago Sosa should be in that mix ahead of Alan Franco. Sometimes people just get excited about transfers because it's a name. It's a guy who's got games in Argentina. Sosa hasn't played as much, but Sosa, I think, will be more impactful. The Atlanta candidate to me is Sosa, but I think it's Ramon Avila because I think he scores a ton of goals for Minnesota and makes them an MLS Cup contender.
Yeah, and I think Minnesota finishing higher in the standings than Cincinnati would lend folks to looking at Avila more than Brenner.
Yeah, I'm still jury's out on Cincinnati for me. Young Player of the Year, sponsored by AT&T. Andrew Wiebe goes with Cole Bassett. Other candidates, Caden Clark, George Bello, Tanner Tessman, James Sands, Gianluca Busio. Jarrett, who's your pick?
Caden Clark.
John is not Jarrett, but John goes with Caden Clark. Jarrett?
Yeah.
Oh, Gianluca Busio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaning to Busio as well. I think he's going to be in a role that gets a lot of attention. I think Kansas City will be a better team than Colorado. I think Busio will have more of an impact there. I think Bello will be in the mix, but I think for some reason there's a negative perception of George Bello that I just do not understand, even in this fan base. I don't get it. Tessman is the wild card in my mind because he could really end up being that box-to-box midfielder that thrives in Dallas and starts to get some national team attention. I would have loved to have seen him in the Olympics. But Tessman is my wild card. I'm going with Busio as well. Defender of the Year. Jonathan Mensah is Andrew Wiebe's pick. Other candidates, Matt Hedges, Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, Alan Franco, Yemar Gomez Andrade, and Eddie Segura. John, who are you going with?
I'll go with Zimmerman. I think that it's another year of Nashville challenging in the conference. And so I think that for them to continue to do what they did last season, match what they did this year, match what they did last year, this year, and continue to improve, I think that it's going to be Walker Zimmerman at the back. So I'll go with Zimmerman.
Jarrett?
Off the damn board, Miles Robinson. Put some respect on that boy's name.
That's why Jarrett Smith is a member of this show, because he is correct. It will be Miles Robinson. I do not know why Alan Franco is the Atlanta United representative.
And it's no
here.
disrespect to Alan Franco.
No, it's just he hasn't
Miles
played.
Robinson
He hasn't played. I mean, that I don't get that. Miles Robinson deserves more respect. Miles Robinson had a somewhat rough patch in the middle of last season when he had an injury at the beginning of the year. Then, this whole thing called a global pandemic that some people struggled with. I don't know if he tested positive, never came out, but we know people did test positive. We don't know who they were. Don't know if it was him. He struggled in the middle of the year. He really did. And he bounced back. And he was really good at the end of the year. And we know what he can do. No, Abby, the injury from Miles at the beginning of the year had nothing to do with the U.S. men's national team. I don't want to continue playing that narrative because I think it's overplayed. That was at the end of 2019. He was injured, fresh injury, in Guadalajara against Leones Negros. That had nothing to do with that. And then you had the pandemic hit. I don't like what Greg Berhalter did with Miles Robinson, making him run after that game when he had been specifically asked by Atlanta management and Frank DeBoer, and I'm guessing Carlos Bocanegra, to not overwork him. Making him do extra work in a game that he didn't play is overworking him. I have a problem with that. But it didn't affect the 2020 season. It affected the 2019 playoffs, which I don't think was the reason why you lost to Toronto in the Eastern Conference Final. I think you didn't close out 2 shots from distance, and that's why that happens. Miles Robinson's my pick for Defender of the Year. Goalkeeper of the Year. Matt Turner is Wiebe's pick. Other candidates, Andre Blake, Pedro Galese, Eloy Room, Stephen Fry, Dane St. Clair, Sean Johnson, Steve Clark, Tim Melia, every goalkeeper in the league, basically.
Yeah, all the keepers.
John, who is your pick
Jesus,
for goalkeeper of the
everybody.
year? I know. Goalkeeper of the year, John.
Eloy Room. If we're anticipating Columbus, obviously one of the best teams in the East, if we're looking at them to be a contender to win MLS Cup at the end, I think that you've got to have somebody at the back, although I know that the defense in front of him will be anticipated solid as well. I'll go with Eloy Room.
Okay, Jarrett?
I think it's Matt Turner. I think part of this is just going to be the fact that, like, awards are narrative-driven, but I think everything clicks pretty well for New England. Matt Turner does Matt Turner things, and he wins an award before fetching a little fee to go to Europe.
Okay. I'm going Steve Clark because I think Portland is going to be a big surprise out west, and I think he'll be a big factor in that. I do worry a little bit because he will have 5 amazing games, and then he'll have a really shocking, weird moment where it's like you wonder what's going on with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Portland is going to have a big year, and Steve Clark will be a big part of it. So I'm going Clark. Coach of the year. Wiebe goes with Giovanni Savarese. Other candidates, Bradley, Porter, Arena, Heath, Pareja. Jarrett, you go first.
I love Savarese. But you're forgetting my man in Philadelphia, Jim Curtin.
Uh-huh.
Jim Curtin, Coach of the Year.
Okay.
Again.
Okay.
He repeats. I think they are right there with I don't know if they win the Shield, but they are in the conversation in the last few weeks of the year, growing new talent after losing 2 important pieces of that team.
Future Celtic coach Jim Curtin.
Future Celtic coach Jim Curtin.
Okay. John, who you got?
Man, Philadelphia's going to stab me as a collective city.
They are. It's true. They do that anyway, but
yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. They throw batteries at you and then stab you.
They do that anyway because you're tall, but they're going to find another reason.
Easy to find.
Yeah.
Since Jarrett took my pick of Jim Curtin, I'll go with Adrian Heath out west.
You can actually go with Jim Curtin if you think Jim Curtin's the one. You can't.
Well, then I'll go with Jim Curtin because I think he's the one.
Okay. Well, then you got it wrong because it's going to be Adrian Heath. Adrian Heath is going to do it because Minnesota is going to be right there with Portland in the West. I think those are your top 2. I'm going Heath. I think he has the talent to get over the hump. And I think people will be talking about him a lot too, and I think that affects some of this voting because Adrian Heath, if he is feeling disrespected, he will let you know.
Mm-hmm.
The assist king. This is another one from Wiebe. He's got Emmanuel Bebelo Reynoso from Minnesota. Other candidates, Vela, Pozuelo, Espinoza from San Jose, Mauricio Pereira, Diego Valeri, Tomas Pochettino, Carlos Gil. Who leads the league in assists, Jarrett?
Oh, damn. Give me Pereira in Orlando.
Okay. John?
I think they're just going to have so many weapons to play with.
Okay.
I'll go with Valeri, considering what we're thinking about Portland out west. Someone's got to be the straw out there. I'll give it to Valeri.
I think Wiebe's got it right. I'm going with Reynoso. He was outstanding when he came in last year. 14 assists in 16 games, 12 starts, 7 assists in 3 playoff games. He's got Avila now, which I think is even better up top. I'm going Reynoso. Yes, South Georgia. I did bait John away from his pick because
you did.
Well, you're
Absolutely.
No, he made his pick, but then he had faulty logic behind it. Like, I can't pick something that Jarrett said. So I wanted to make sure you were picking who you wanted to pick, and I picked who I wanted to pick. That's all.
And yes, South Georgia, I did fall for it. Absolutely.
It's not about falling for it. Which one do you think is going to win Coach of the Year? And you said one.
Yeah. Because I didn't think that we could share the same information.
But we already have multiple times.
It's the top of the hour.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. Tell us about.
Let's finish this up.
That's it. That's it for the.
That was it.
That's all. That's all the picks.
They don't have an MVP award?
He did not pick one.
Oh, coward.
Well,
sorry, Andrew.
I mean, maybe he wanted to leave that off. Let me make sure I didn't miss it.
No, you didn't. No MVP.
Oh, no, he did. I'm sorry. I did leave it off. Yeah, I skipped. So let's go to the top of the hour because we can't have this get messed up. Then we'll go through. Sorry, my page did not load all the way. All right, John, tell us about Steve Apolinsky, Indicator GA.
Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, proud supporters of everything soccer down here in the SDH network for wrongful death and serious injury matters and other things. And we'll tell you how to find out about those other cases as well in just a little bit. There's one place you need to go. It's Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. 3 different ways that you can get in touch with the firm. You can pick up your phone, give them a call, 404-377-9191. Get a free consultation that way. Or you can go on the World Wide Web, large device or small, aa-legal.com, the error key, the return key, the enter key, whatever gets you to the next stage for the homepage of Apolinsky & Associates, LLC. Check out all of the cases that they can help you with. Check out all of the awards and honors that they have received. And if you still have questions, they have a pop-up window that pops up 24/7, 365 and a quarter. Thank you, Chris Hutchison, because that's what pop-up windows do. They pop up, get your questions answered that way. Number 3 is by shooting Steve an email directly at steve@aa-legal.com. Over 30 years of experience, over $40 million in judgments for their clients in Georgia and Alabama for wrongful death and serious injury matters. There's only one place you need to go. It is Apolinsky & Associates, LLC, and the website is aa-legal.com.
That was pretty fast. That was on the fast side. Okay.
Well, we still had some business to take care of.
There's always an excuse, just in case people didn't like the fast side. Let's see what people thought.
Plus, the gap for the .com folks happened today.
See, you've got to pick something, John. You're trying to. We talk about Pep Guardiola going galaxy brain with lineups. You go galaxy brain with your strategy here too often, and you end up maybe pleasing no one with trying to please everybody a couple times a week.
Because I completed the read.
Okay, you don't sound too pleased, actually. So I'm just saying, pick one and go with it. Trust your gut. Coco said it was an awkward start. Sean says he's confused. That could have been my fault too. Alex Bassine says, once the Materva sponsorship kicks in, John's guaranteed 10s are gone. I'm telling you, we're going to make this happen, Alex. We're going to make it happen. Let's see what we have. Abby clearly read, looked into camera, all good as I'm typing this, and the pause, a little quick, 8.75. Concise today, 8. John mistakenly thought he is not allowed to read the same info the same way, -5. Didn't hate pause, +2. You get a 7. Alex gives you a 10.
Thanks
6 because of the vibe from 4 card. 8 from
vibe.
Ricky, the vibe. Weird teaser at start, -1 from Katie. A few word fumbles, -0.5. Eye roll on the .com, 7.7. I did not notice that, Katie.
I didn't notice it either. That's a new one for me.
You did it. Might have to,
I didn't notice it.
Might have to check the tape. You did it. There's nothing for you to notice. You can't notice your eyes rolling. 8.888
I mean, you
for
can
Tomer.
if you notice that you're looking at the ceiling pretty quickly and then back down.
Well, I hope that kind of eye roll isn't happening here. But, yeah. 6.5. Weird amount of time focusing on the awards they won while rushing through the actual info about the firm. That's a good point, Coco. That's really good.
Good analysis.
That's good. I like it. Sean, 6.789. It was good today. Very good. 9.7 from Ron. No need to yell, John. 5 out of 10. 6.9. It was nice. 10 out of game is this weekend. The pause made his eyes roll up. So you didn't want to do the pause, is what Kefsi's saying. You did not want to do the pause subliminally, and your eyes rolled because you had to do it because people had questioned it. Abby saw it too. So, yeah, see, they're on to you, John. They know what you really want to do and what you feel like you are trying to do to please some people in some of it. So, got to be careful there. That's a tell.
Well, but Kefsi, though, says that I counted by looking up.
I don't even understand what that means.
It wasn't an eye roll. I was counting. I was trying to count in my head, and that's why the eye roll happened. I'm
going with the consensus. Everybody says you rolled your eyes because you weren't comfortable doing it. So I'm just
I got to go with not Kefsi.
Abby's 100% correct. John is always impressionable. That's very true. Very, very true. Yellow card for the eye roll, actually, from Coco.
Oh, wow.
See?
Coco, come on now.
No, don't argue. Don't argue. He's got
Yeah, that's the scent, man. You get a second.
You'll get a second yellow real quick.
Mm-hmm. Sean gave you a high score because he feels high because he had the vaccine. So there you go.
Good, Sean. Excellent.
Yes, normally scheduled scoring tomorrow, Sean lets you know.
Thank you, Sean.
And 4-card with the important wisdom of the day, you can't please all of the people all of the time.
But you can please all the people some of the time.
And some of the people all the time.
Yes, that is true.
Yeah, but you can't please all of the people all of the time. And when you're trying to do things to please all of the people all of the time, then...
You don't please yourself.
Maybe. But you're probably not as good if you just don't trust your instincts. So, Chiefs coach Steve.
It's got a lot deeper than I expected it to.
It's true, but Chiefs coach Steve says, I raised 3 daughters. I know what an eye roll looks like, John. That was an eye roll.
That's your mistake. I stopped at 1. That was my lesson in life, was watching all these people raise multiple children going, no, I don't need that in my life.
Jared knows the eye roll. Jared also knows getting put in an arm bar by his daughter, too. I mean, that's a whole other element.
Triangle choke.
Yeah, seriously. Sean,
she laughs the whole time, too. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Sean, we do have live reads at the brewery tour because of our live tour sponsor, Toca Football.
Yes.
It's a little bit shorter read. John's going to have to expand it and hopefully keep our sponsor happy.
Word count 72.
Anyway, let's get into the big awards from Andrew Wiebe. So, Assist King, we got. Golden Boot is next. He goes with Vela. Other candidates, Joseph, Jossie Zardes, Raul Ruidiaz, Robert Beric, and Gonzalo Higuain. Who is your pick, Jarrett?
I think he's got it. I think it's Vela. I don't know if LAFC will have officially actually fixed the defense, but I think Vela will continue to score goals at will when he gets chances.
John?
Yeah, I'm with Jared. I got to go with Vela. I think that Joseph is a close second north of 20, but I think that LAFC will try to outscore folks a lot this year, and they'll get a lot of goals on the board out west. So I'll go with Vela.
Well, you're both wrong because it's going to be Jossie Zardes.
Oh.
Jossie Zardes is going to get a lot of opportunities to score goals. Lots of opportunities to score goals. Jossie Zardes will be the Golden Boot winner.
I'm very pro Jossie Zardes historically, and I don't hate that. But
yeah, I think he gets it. MVP, the Landon Donovan, MLS Most Valuable Player. Wiebe goes with Vela again. Other candidates, Lucas Zelarayan, Carlos Gil, Bebelo Reynoso, Sebastian Blanco, Joseph Martinez. Who is your MVP this season, John?
Well, if we're thinking...
What are you looking at?
I'm thinking and processing because I have
dangerous.
2 thoughts.
Yeah, I can tell. There's smoke. I thought the Pope had been reelected.
Yeah, really?
Wow, and I'm the mean one. Jeez.
There are 2 thoughts here for me in this, and it's one per conference. If a lot of folks are thinking that Columbus is going to be the best team in the East and be a favorite for MLS Cup, that would lend me to Zelarayan. If folks are thinking that Minnesota is going to have that run that they're looking for to be a contender in the West, it would lend it to Reynoso for me. I think that Columbus goes farther in the playoffs than Minnesota will, so I'll go with Zelarayan.
Okay. That was a lot of words to get to the one you had first.
Yeah.
Jarrett, who you got?
Reynoso. I think Minnesota just, they I think they make it very far this year. They have a very good season, the regular season. I think they make a playoff run, and I don't know that he's going to lead any one category, but I think he's going to be that guy that when you look at the categories, he's top 3 or 4 in a slew of them.
This is a tough one. I like the logic from both of you on Zelarayan and Reynoso. Vela will be in the mix, obviously, because LAFC will be good. I don't know if Joseph will be in that mix because I think it'll be a little bit slower start for him. I'm not buying Blanco. I would go Valeri from Portland.
Yeah.
I do keep coming back to Carlos Gil. I just don't know where I think New England is going to finish in the East. They're the ones that I can't place yet. And we'll do our power rankings tomorrow on that. I can't decide if they're in the elite group or if they're in the group below. I think if they're in the elite group, it's because Carlos Gil has an amazing season.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's enough to win MVP. I'm also somewhat tempted to go on Chope Abila here for Minnesota because I think he'll get the goals and people might vote for that as opposed to the guy setting them up in Reynoso. This is a really tough call. I'm going to trust my gut. Like I was telling John about his reads, I got to do it. And the first name that I kept coming back to when I went through this was Carlos Heel. And I am going to go with Carlos Heel as the Landon Donovan MLS Most Valuable Player for 2021.
Mark the tape. Hold it for later.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. That's the one that I'm the least sure on, though, for sure, because it could go so many different directions. I think he carries New England to a good season. They might not be in MLS Cup. They might not be in the Eastern Conference Final, but they're nowhere without him. And in a year where there's a lot of different candidates, somebody like that could end up getting the vote. So I'm going Carlos Heel. All right, now one other thing that came out in the MLS media today before we get to Nico Moreno, Matt Doyle's MLS tiers. And I always like this idea because I think it's the best way to do a season prediction. It's very difficult to pick order right now. I mean, we're gonna do it with power rankings and figure that out, but it's very difficult at this stage because we just don't know. Tier 1 for Doyle is Columbus, LAFC. That's it. That is the top tier in the league, according to Matt. Tier 2, serious trophy contenders, New England, Portland, Minnesota, and that's it. So 5 teams in the serious trophy contenders or top tier. I feel like that's a little low. I feel like that's not quite enough. I don't disagree with any of these except for maybe New England.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced they're there yet. Columbus, yes, they are my number 1 in the power rankings. LAFC, number 2. Columbus could change because of the injuries, but I don't think anything's going to be super long-term. They might start a little bit slower, but to win MLS Cup right now, they're my pick. I'm not thinking about it from a supporter shield perspective. As Katie says, Philly would like a word. I agree. Mm-hmm. I think Philly would be ahead of New England for me. Portland, I do like being in the spot. Minnesota, I like being in the spot. New England is the one that I question being here. Philly, I feel like, should be here, and they're in Tier 3. Atlanta's in Tier 3. Orlando's in Tier 3. Seattle is in Tier 3, which I'm not convinced of. Toronto is in Tier 3.
That feels low.
For Seattle? I'm on the other way on Seattle. I think that feels high.
I am always have this thought in my head of Seattle. Every time I feel like I'm going to doubt Seattle, I think they're just going to be there at the end of the year to annoy the hell out of me.
So the question that came up on the Twitch pitch from Ricky said, if Heel is your MVP pick for me, how wouldn't they be there? I think they could be anywhere from 3rd to 5th. I don't have them as the number 2 team in the East because I think Philadelphia is that. I mean, going in, I think it's Columbus and Philly. I think New England could be 3rd if you want to put them, and this depends on how you want to define the tiers and how many teams you want to put in, if you want to put limits on it. I would have them 3rd in the East, and I would probably have them at the top of the 3rd tier if you're going to do it in this way, or the bottom of the 2nd, depending on where you want. But I don't know if I have them 3rd overall. That feels too high for New England. But Seattle's the one that I'm much lower on than most people.
No Jordan Morris.
No Jordan Morris. I don't know if Schmetzer will get this idea of playing 2 up top correct. I just don't know if they've got the right players to do this. I don't think Alex Roldan is a right back for a top team in this league. So we'll get into it with Nico Moreno here in just a bit, but Seattle's the one that I could see going the other way from teams that were at the top last year. But everybody else has them high, and a lot of that, I think, is historically they found a way to do it.
I mean, we have the past history of Zombie Sounders, and then they come in from lane 8, and they always make their run in the postseason. But that's because you have all of the pieces that you have. If you don't have a piece like Jordan Morris, that to me seems like one of the cylinders in the engine that gets you from Zombie Sounders into your deep playoff run. If you don't have that, and if you're a cylinder down, that doesn't do well for the performance of your car. So I could see that.
Yes. So having a tier 3 with a whole bunch of teams, Sporting is in it as well, Toronto, NYC, I think speaks to where I'm at going into this season. You've got a very wide open league this year. I would honestly have all the way down, and maybe NYC is out of this group for me. Sporting would be in it. Toronto would be in it. Seattle would maybe be out of it. Yeah, they would be out of it for me. Orlando, Atlanta would be in it as all teams that could win MLS Cup. And you could keep Seattle at the bottom of it. NYC would definitely be out of it for me. I'm not betting on them right now. So I would look at it as tier 1, 2, and 3 in the way Doyle has it as all MLS Cup contenders. I think it's the most wide open season we've ever seen. I 100% think it is the most wide open season we have ever seen in this league. Now, that's leaving Nashville out. They're in tier 4 according to Doyle. I could put them into tier 3. Dallas is in this tier. I'm okay with them being in the next tier outside of the Cup contenders. Colorado, I think, is in this group. San Jose, I'm not sure if they're in this group. Sorry, Jarrett. Red Bulls, I'm not sure if they're in this group. Red Bulls would be in the next group for me, just the rest of the pack. San Jose, I don't know what you get with San Jose. Jarrett, do you have any idea about San Jose?
No, I don't. All I know is that, like I've said, I think last month, if you told me this year that San Jose comes out of the gate super slow, misses out on U.S. Open Cup, and doesn't pull themselves out of the basement, and the summer window comes, I could very easily see them say, "Hey, look, boss man, it ain't working. Let's go our separate ways. We won't fire you. You can leave your contract if you want to and go start something new somewhere else."
I'm kind of leaning to that too. I just don't know if they have the personnel.
Yeah.
I'm not as high in Colorado as a lot of people. Dallas, a lot of it depends on Paxton Pomykal and what he can do coming back into it, and Andres Ricarte, who a lot of people are high on for what he's done in preseason, folks who've watched it out in Texas. Nashville, I'll bump up a tier. NYC, I'll bump down into this group. San Jose and Red Bulls, I'm going to bump down into the rest of the pack. And the rest of the pack, you've got Miami, you've got the Galaxy, you've got Cincinnati, you've got Vancouver, you've got Austin, you've got Chicago, who I would bump up a tier.
Yeah, that to me was way too low for Chicago. I'd have them up one.
And then he created a 6th tier of Prove Me Wrong with DC, Houston, who I'd maybe put up one, Real Salt Lake, and Montreal, which I'm okay with all of those. If you had to rank the 3 teams that you think have the best shot to win MLS Cup, John, who are you putting in that group of 3 right now? You can go pick 3, and you get a free roll at your favorite juice box purveyor. Which 3 do you think have the best chance to win MLS Cup? Not based on odds. Which ones have the best chance to win the trophy?
I'll go Columbus.
Yep. Columbus is there for me.
Philadelphia.
Okay.
And for a third one, and I'll take postseason into account, I'll give you a team out west. I'll go Portland.
Okay. Jarrett?
Columbus is in there.
Yeah.
Of course. You mean Columbus, Portland, because I just trust Giovanni Savarese way more than I trust him.
And that's why I put him in, because I counted the postseason run that we're used to seeing and the knowledge base that he has for navigating a postseason.
And Minnesota. So Portland, Minnesota, and Columbus.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I think Minnesota is the one who takes the biggest jump this year. I really do. And Portland, I think Savarese's built for those kinds of runs. I think they'll be good, and in the postseason they could be dangerous. Columbus is the best team going into the season. That's not discounting Philadelphia. It's not discounting Orlando, Atlanta. Sporting, I think, could be in this mix. There's quite a few, but if I'm going to 3, it's Columbus, it's Minnesota, and it's Portland in that order. Those are the three that I have. LAFC, yes, Ricky, they're in that mix as well. But I've got Minnesota as the best team in the West and Columbus as the best team in the East coming into the season. That is where my head's at. We'll see where Nico Moreno's head is at here in just a few minutes. Other news from around the world, we have a new kit sponsor, an away kit sponsor?
Yeah.
Not a home kit sponsor?
Away kit. Let me grab the article.
I got it. The away kit sponsor for Chattanooga FC in NISA is Wolfsburg, the club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have more? You were grabbing the article?
I'm grabbing the article.
Okay. That's an interesting one. They've had a partnership for a while, and Chattanooga's had the partnership via Volkswagen is where things came into this. But an away kit sponsor being another club is a brand new one. You still grabbing the article?
Clicking on the article now. It's loading.
It's
believed to be the first time, and this is from Bob Williams at Sport Business, believed to be the first time a U.S. soccer team has ever been sponsored by a club from top-tier European leagues. Follows the strategic alliance signed between the two clubs in 2017. Goes back to what you were talking about with Volkswagen. Wolfsburg will also provide support to the Chattanooga FC women's team, which will return to the field in 2022, as well as club youth programs, player development, and coaching education. Quoting Managing Director of Wolfsburg, Michael Mieske, with this unique activation at an important Volkswagen location, we want to make our contribution to providing sustainable support to the local community. Partnership also further indicates that Wolfsburg remains committed to developing in the valuable U.S. market.
Interesting. It's different. It's a different approach. I guess Volkswagen is still on the front of the home shirt.
That would be my guess. That was not disclosed in the article.
If that's the case, then yeah, they're all in cahoots, so they can make that work and have Wolfsburg on the away. It's definitely a different approach. That partnership could be really intriguing as they continue to flesh it out. I like that there's support dedicated for the women's team to come back, and we'll see at what level they come back. I'm assuming it is in the NISA Women's League that they are working towards, which would be like a second division professional women's league. I think that is the plan, and we'll see if they can get that off the ground for 2022. Some news out of Europe. Zlatan Ibrahimovic just keeps on making that news. He got sent off against Parma. He reportedly said some things to the referee that were not appropriate. He was spotted breaking coronavirus regulations in Milan, eating out while the area was in an Italian government-decreed red zone. A ban on dining at restaurants was in place. Why was the restaurant open, first off?
Yeah.
But he was eating out. He said he was having a business meeting. And then it was revealed that he could be facing a fine or potential ban by breaking the FIFA Code of Ethics due to his association with a betting firm, BetHard.com. FIFA has a blanket ban on players participating in FIFA-run tournaments from having an economic interest in betting companies. Swedish daily Aftonbladet is reporting that Zlatan has an indirect stake in the Malta-based BetHard.com, and he runs this risk of a multi-million euro fine or a ban from sporting activities. So the Swedish daily media source has consulted the company's register in Malta and Sweden, where Ibrahimovic's company, Unknown AB, is listed as holding around 10% of the shares in Game Day Group PLC, which is the sole shareholder in BetHard.com. So it's kind of shells and kind of this and kind of that and blah, 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 blah. But if you own 10% of the shares in this and they're the sole shareholder in this, then yes, you own part of it, and which is not allowed. They registered profits of 30 million euro in 2019. When he made his return to the Swedish national team, that's where he could have violated FIFA rules for this. So, according to FIFA, the penalties for doing this range from economic sanctions up to a maximum sporting sanction of 3 years. And look, when you've got your company owning shares in another company that is a shareholder of the other company that's running, it looks like you might be trying to keep it under wraps.
A little shady.
It's not shady. It's just you're trying to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you be trying to hide it? Maybe because
Right.
it's not kosher with
Right.
FIFA rules.
Yes.
So, this is going to be an issue for Zlatan. We'll see how it gets sorted out. In the Netherlands, Erik ten Hag is saying that he will continue with Ajax after this season. He wants to continue after this season. He had been linked to a number of jobs that hasn't come to fruition. He will be one of the guys out there for the next, maybe not mega job that opens, but if dominoes start to fall, he will be in the mix for places. I thought he would be this time. I thought he would end up in the Bundesliga, but not quite yet for Erik ten Hag. I know that's one of Nick's favorites. We'll see if it can break through. Speaking of managers who are breaking through, Santiago Solari at Club America, even with the result last night, they are really good this year. And they play Cruz Azul this weekend, one of the biggest games of the year. 11-1-2. They would be the best team in the league if they hadn't screwed up their paperwork in a game or that ended up getting forfeited that they won. They are 1 win away from 8 consecutive wins at the Estadio Azteca in league play, the most by any manager in the history of the club. I would have never guessed that. And they've been really good defensively. Clean sheet in 6. They're controlling possession. They're playing from the limited times I've watched them in Liga MX. They feel like they are playing a much more modern game under Solari. It's not as basic as it got at times under Herrera. I think Miguel Herrera is a pretty traditional kind of old school manager, and Solari's not. They're playing much better soccer. And if they beat Cruz Azul, they'll go to the top of the table. This is probably going to decide who wins the regular season and who's the favorite going in. But this also, just these two teams, and when you talk about CONCACAF Champions League, as good as MLS is doing, Club America and Cruz Azul are having seasons for the ages. So even with 5 in there, those are your 2 favorites in the CONCACAF Champions to me.
Yeah, and Monterrey, who is 3rd in the table right now in the Clausura, they're still hanging in there when it comes to both CONCACAF Champions and being 3rd. Remember, in the Clausura, the way that it works, 1 through 4, they get that first round bye. 5 through 12 are the ones that have to fight it out amongst themselves to advance into the second round and into the playoffs. And last time around, if I remember correctly, in 5 through 12, when they had this playoff structure, 5 through 8 all lost, and 9 through 12 made their way into the second round. And so the Clausura plus the playoff race is going to be interesting because there are a couple of groupings that could decide 5 through 8. You got some teams that are separated by only a few points. And the same for the folks who are trying to get in, because if I'm remembering correctly, right now, just to get into the playoffs, Chivas and Tigres would be out right now. And to have 2 of the big names out of even the play-in round in your playoffs, that's big stuff for Liga MX. But yeah, to see what Club America and Cruz Azul are up to right now in the Clausura, it's truly some strong stuff that we're seeing. And remember, Cruz Azul lost their first 2 in the Clausura, and they've run the table since.
Yeah, that's a must-watch one this weekend. Do you have the daytime on that one in front of you?
I'll check the juice boxes real quick.
No, it's going to take you forever. I'll get it. I just wanted to see if it was Saturday or Sunday and the time on it. It is Saturday night. It is the 10:05 Club America and Cruz Azul at the Estadio Azteca. Club America is the home team in that one. Both play at the Azteca right now. So 10:05 Saturday night after Atlanta and Orlando early. You can maybe take a nap. You can watch some of the other MLS games. But yeah, that late one, that will be a must watch.
Club America favored right now at a plus 139.
Why is that a surprise?
Cruz Azul of plus 186. Just the margins. I would have thought the margins would have been a little closer.
Yeah, that's not too crazy. We'll see how it goes as we get closer to it. All right. Mateo is going to dial up Nico Moreno. Jarrett, you still with us?
Yes.
Are you going to stick with us?
If you want me to.
Please do, sir.
Is this so you can slander San Jose in front of me?
I don't know if Nico will slander San Jose. He might.
No, I'm worried about you.
No, not at all. Not at all.
No.
No. Not yet, anyway. We haven't seen anything yet to slander. Give it time. Season will start soon, Jarrett. It is Mateo is working on getting Nico Moreno up on the line for us.
Sisyphus.
It'll be okay, Jarrett. It'll be all right. You'll be all right. I'm very intrigued to see the Western Conference this year because we've talked a lot about the East, obviously. Being in Atlanta and dealing with, an Eastern Conference that'll be super crowded and super competitive. This is in the West going to be really fascinating to all of us. And we've got Nico Moreno with us. Nico, how are you?
Hey, just trying to set up over here, making sure that the audio is good, and I'll be opening my camera here in a couple of seconds.
Cool. We'll get your camera up on Twitch. You sound great. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's an early call for you out on the West Coast.
Especially early in the morning, brother.
Yes, it is. I'm actually trying to make sure that I can hear you guys well as well. But yes, it is a little early here, but excited to talk to you guys.
Yeah, this is something that we've been trying to do more of at Soccer Down here as the interest in MLS is starting to grow in Atlanta beyond just Atlanta. And I think it's such a critical element for the league as a whole for fans to follow the rest of the league as much as they follow their team. And Seattle obviously has been the epicenter for so long. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved, and especially with Pulso Sports and everything that you're doing in Seattle, and let people know where they can follow you.
Yes, absolutely. Where to start? I mean, I've been covering the Sounders for approximately 7 or 8 years. I initially started with ESPN Seattle, Spanish in radio. And initially it was more of a weekend program. I was the co-host, and we would break down everything from Liga MX to Copa Libertadores, NFL, NBA. And little by little, I started really getting involved with it. And Felipe Maqueda, who was the producer and host of the show, he kind of started taking me under his wing, and he saw something, some sort of potential. And that's how it kind of began. Then we started covering the team. We got the rights to do the play-by-play in Spanish for the broadcast and radio for the Sounders. I also did one season of Seahawks in Spanish that was
cool.
Was not a success, but we tried that for about 6 games total. And that's kind of how I got involved in sports in general, in broadcasting, and eventually started working with Sandra Hard, MLS in Spanish, several things here and there, and eventually decided to kind of put my own platform and do very original content, and that's how kind of Pulso got started.
I love your coverage. I've been following you and Pulso for quite a while. I think I remember you breaking a lot of things on the Sounders, and that's what kind of brought you to my attention, because try to keep up with what's going on league-wide. Seattle this year, it feels like a year of maybe transition, and we were just talking about kind of our picks, looking at where things could fall in the West, and Seattle's the team that we differ the most on. I'm really concerned about the loss of Jordan Morris. I'm really concerned about some of the personnel. Others are, I think, very high on Seattle. Where do you fall about the Sounders coming into 2021?
Well, first of all, I certainly appreciate your support and coverage. Actually, the transfer window is what I believe really got me noticed overall. Initially, with even some very small players, from Andres Correa to Nicolas Lodero. Eventually, when he started coming on, and it's something that I really enjoy, is kind of breaking those sort of stories. Now, when it comes to the Sounders, I'm a lot like you. I'm very concerned about a lot of things when it comes to this team this year. One of them being the change of formation, going to a 3-5-2 And I know this is not going to be something that they have to stick to for the rest of the season. I understand that the reason why this kind of came along is because of the lack of wingers that the team has at this moment in time. And therefore, they were kind of obligated to switch their formation and try to figure out how they were going to use their roster and perhaps find some width in other ways using their wing backs. But when you are missing so many key components from last season, you lost Gustav Svensson, that has been an anchor for this team for the last 3 to 4 years. You lose Kelvin Leerdam, who was so productive at the right back position. You're losing a guy like Jovan Jones, that although he had a lot of issues and perhaps inconsistency, he was kind of your go-to guy out on the wing at times. And, of course, Jordan Morris, your most dynamic, your most important player out wide, who is now out for most of the season. So when you put all those things together and you're putting a whole new formation out, you have to be skeptical about how the team is going to perform. And with that said, I don't believe the preseason that the Sounders have put together has been cohesive with those kind of question marks. Because if I'm switching to a formation and I'm trying to find a team and I'm trying to put a new group together, I want to make sure to challenge this group. I want to make sure that I am doing everything I can to put them in game situations. And this year, they've only had 2 preseason games and only one MLS team, which is the Portland Timbers. The other one was against San Diego Loyal, and everything else was inner squad. So I find it really hard to be confident that this team is going to take off immediately. Now, they do have a good and steady kind of core group still. You got Raul Reyes, you got Nicolas Lodero, you got Stefan Fry, one of the best keepers in the league. You got Yeimar Gomez Andrade, who was fantastic last season. But because there's so many things changing, I do feel like this team is going to be – I have them right now at 5th in the West, so we'll see how that kind of works out.
That's about where I'm at too. Go ahead, John.
So, Nico, when you look at the West in and of itself, I know that we're used to seeing the slow start for Seattle, then they catch fire when they get things figured out, they make it into the playoffs, they make the deep run. When it comes to what you've seen early on and the evidence that you're bringing into this season, who is going to be the most improved team in the West that could cause playoff positioning problems for Seattle if they make it into the postseason? Who is the most improved team in your mind out West this year?
That's a very good question. And this team has kind of backfired for me in the past because they do tend to give you a lot of positives throughout the offseason, and they seem to have it put together and then they don't. But I'll go with Vancouver. I think Vancouver will be able to get into the postseason. I believe that Dahomey on his second season, I think that Caicedo, the Colombian winger who they brought in from Deportivo Cali, is one of the best talents in Colombia. He is working the U17 and U20 with the Colombian national team, and I think he's going to be very good in Vancouver. When you put together what Coach Dos Santos has done over the last few seasons, sometimes it's hard to see where he's going with it. But personally speaking with him, as much as I have, I can tell you that he is brilliant. He really understands the game. And I think that this season, he's finally getting the last few pieces for what he wants to feel. And I believe that they will probably get into the postseason and kind of do a lot to mess up the West for other teams. I think they do have the talent. I think that they have the theory and the gameplay to potentially do some damage.
Interesting. We have a third co-host as well, Jarrett Smith. Jarrett has kind of adopted San Jose as his neutral team to watch quite a bit. Jarrett, go ahead.
Yeah, this was a couple of years ago when I adopted them, and then they proceeded to win the wooden spoon. It was a beautiful year for me. It also led to the dumbest game I've ever seen Atlanta play in San Jose. But enough about maybe this is the answer to that question. But to take it another direction from John, who in the Western Conference do you think is being overranked early on here that you think really would be one to watch that might fall on their face in the season compared to what all the preseason hype is?
I like to, I don't like to, but I tend to go with the LA Galaxy. I feel like the LA Galaxy is a team that gets a lot of hype constantly because they get Zlatan, because they have Chicharito, and it never seems to work. When Zlatan first came in, I thought he was going to be a good player, but I didn't think he was going to be one to put this team in the MLS Finals. And, well, that ended up happening because they were kind of putting a team together based on one player. I believe that this season, once again, there's a lot of hype over what Chicharito can do, over what Sebastian Lletget can bring, because he obviously has been a very productive player. But I just don't see it. I know that Vanny is a fantastic coach. He has done it in Toronto before, and it's hard to kind of go against it. But to give your question a hot take, I believe that the LA Galaxy is a team that perhaps is going to seem like they're really getting everything together. They're going to seem like they're going to be that contender in the West, but they might not be able to make it. I mean, Christian Pavón was a very important player for that team, by far their most talented, and he's not coming back. And I have not heard of them replacing that position with that productivity and that lethal ability to stretch out teams, to take on players, to just in the flanks create all kinds of trouble for a defense. And they just don't have that right now. So that said, I believe that the LA Galaxy is that team that perhaps gets overhyped and might fall flat on their face.
One of our listeners, Jason Nix, had a question about the fan base in Seattle. What is the reaction with the Jordan Morris loan? I think maybe even just the loan to begin with, and then he gets hurt. Is it anger from the fan base? Did they kind of understand it was time for Jordan? What's the vibe of the Seattle fan base right now?
That's a fantastic question. And honestly, I say that because it brings so many emotions to the table. Because perhaps sometimes as analysts or insiders, we try to understand and bring at different variables and opportunities and situations and, what it could have been. But as a fan, I do understand why they're so upset. There's anger across. I mean, I got messages that week from all fans. I got calls from friends of mine, like, what happened? Like, how could you possibly put your best player, arguably, out on loan without any guarantees? And now he's hurt. They're not going to purchase him, so you lose him out. You don't get that $7 million that you were hoping to get for him. So you handicapped your team in many ways. You hindered them to progress in the season without any guarantees. So, yes, there is a lot of anger from the fan base. Jordan Morris, beyond being a crucial player for the team in terms of what he brings to the field. He is the golden boy. He is the home child. He is the one that said no to Germany and stayed in Seattle. And because of that, he's one of the most beloved players here. Therefore, yes, there was a lot of anger, and, the fans just don't understand why they would have done that. Now, from my perspective, it's understandable that you want Jordan to go and get that opportunity. You wanted him to fulfill his dream to get to Europe. That week when he went back, we were still in the off season. I talked to several players who were like, hey, I had no idea he was leaving, but I couldn't be happier for the guy. He's been talking about Europe for last 6 months. So because of that, I do understand that the team wanted to fulfill that dream for him. They thought that Jordan was going to obviously go out there, impress Swan City, a team that doesn't have much, honestly, going for themselves. And he was going to solidify himself in there, be bought and start his EPL career eventually when Swan City moves on to in a promotion. but that just didn't happen that way. But there was a lot of anger from the fan base on that regard.
Yeah, Nico, we talked about the roster and how it's going to be looking this season and the concerns for the fan base. Now, I know one of the concerns in the end of last season heading into the offseason was Brian Schmetzer. Would he not? Is he going to sign the extension? Is he going to stay? Is he going to, would he be going someplace else and coaching in Major League Soccer? When it comes to Brian Schmetzer, for those that only get the opportunity to kind of duck in the door for a nationally televised game and don't necessarily understand what Brian Schmetzer means to the fabric of Seattle soccer, what does he mean? Break that down for us.
Seattle, Brian Schmetzer is a guy that is an equal, iconic member of the Seattle soccer community as any huge player that you can think of. Freddie Montero, Chad Marshall, Osvaldo Alonso. Brian is right there. There is a good point to say that if there was a Mount Rushmore of the most iconic and influential soccer figures in Seattle, he would definitely be there. From the USL days to as a player, as a coach, obviously as a head coach of the MLS team, obviously before that being the assistant to Siggy Smith, he's been there the whole way, the absolute entire way. So he knows this team. He believes, he's passionate. He says it in every press conference. I'm an ECS member. I'm a supporter. He the best thing about Brian Schmetzer is that he's not going to be anything but himself. Sometimes he comes across to other people and perhaps to other teams as maybe too lovable with the fan base. Like he wants to be liked way too much, but that's just who he is. He really believes in the team. He really supports the team. This is what he grew up with. So that's why he's so important. And in terms of his success, a lot of it has to do with that. When Siggy Smith just couldn't do it, and this team was awful, and they were at the bottom part of the table, and obviously Siggy Smith gets let go. Not a lot of people gave the Sounders a chance, but Brian understood what each player could bring to the table. He puts together a team based around what he thought was best for them. Nicolas Ladero comes in, and boom, you get a 2016 MLS Cup because he understood what each player could bring to the table, because he's a player's coach. They believed in him. They wanted to go to war for him, and they end up winning the championship. So Brian Schmetzer is a huge part of the community because of his success, because of his history, and because of his demeanor towards the fan base.
Jerry, you got one more? Go ahead.
Yeah, we started doing this, what we're doing now, during the 2016 season, and we vividly remember following and watching. There was a time where we referred to at the end of the Siggy Schmidt tenure, I remember referring to Seattle as a smoldering crater because they were just such a mess. And then Schmetzer comes in there, you bring in Ladero, and you turn everything around, and then you have an absolutely amazing end of the season. That being said, I think we had a question actually coming out of, I think it was Nick's again, who asked, since we're on the Western Conference, one of the teams we've been big talking about is the team that came in with Atlanta in expansion in 2017 in Minnesota. They've taken jumps from being just a hot mess when they started in the league, started putting pieces together. Last year looked like a team that was going to cause problems. Then they get in the playoffs and they run into the dark magic that is Seattle in the playoffs. How are your feelings about what Minnesota can or cannot be going into the season?
You said it yourself. This team honestly was better than Seattle for a big part of that game last season in the Western Conference finals. They are a very well put together team that coexist around an excellent midfield. I love what Goose brings to the table. I love what Ozzy Alonso obviously does for this team in every capacity, in every dimension, not just in the ability to disturb the game, but in the ability to come out with the ball, his leadership, everything he brings to the table. Then you got a guy like Bebelo Reynoso that is your talent. Yesterday we were on conference with Stefan Fry, and he called them lethal because that's what he is. He's lethal. He's a handful, he said. Bebelo Reynoso just gives this team the ability to have a playmaker that can finish, that can create plays, that can put a ball through in any moment. He has that magic touch. And they do it, they use him so well because they give him such a such important and good cast around him that allows him to, hey, don't worry about defense. Don't worry about coming back. Don't worry about doing any of this. You just worry about finding those pockets of space in between the lines. You get the ball. You find other players. You do what you do. And now they bring Wanchope Avila, who, I still have my concerns about him because he's had a history of injuries, inconsistencies, fitness issues, but he's a goal scorer. He's somebody that can come in and just kill it. So I think Minnesota, with the coaching they have, the players they have, and a system that I think they're very comfortable with, I think they're going to be lethal. They could be one or two, first or second in the Western Conference. I really do believe that. And I know that, once again, they're one of those teams that have also fall flat on their faces, despite having a lot of hype coming into them. But I think like this year, they're really going to be dangerous. And believe me, the fact that they're Seattle's first game is very concerning for everybody in Seattle. I think that Seattle is not going to win that game. And honestly, they might get scored on quite a few times. I mean, it could be one of those games that if you wanted to experiment with a new formation, and Nicolas Lodero is out for this game, by the way, that is the team you did not want. Them in Portland, you didn't want them, and that's who you get. So it's going to be a real tough game. But Minnesota, I'm very high on them this season.
We'll finish with this with you, Nico. And first off, thank you for taking the time early on a Thursday. We're going to be talking to you all season long because I love your coverage. I love what you do, and we want to talk a lot more about the Western Conference over here in Atlanta. Our question that we ended our kind of first segment of MLS preview is, if you get 3 picks for MLS Cup winner this year, who are the 3 teams that you think are the most likely to win the Cup at the end of the year?
I like it. You got to start with Columbus. I mean, I know it's hard to go back to back, but they brought everybody back from last season. They added players. I think Wright Phillips gives them somebody else up there to maybe interchange with Jesse Sardes. I love what Lucas Alarajan did last season. Completely annihilated the Sounders in that final. I think he's going to be even better this season on a time where he's going to be able to really coexist with these guys. Fitness-wise, he's going to be better. Finishing-wise, he's going to be better. I think Caleb Porter is a great coach. He was the nemesis of the Sounders when he was with Timbers, but I think he is a fantastic coach. He knows exactly what to do with his people, and he's another coach that makes sure that his players die for him on the field. So I'll go with Columbus. I think, oh man, this is gonna be tough. I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not gonna go there.
I think it was a team just a little bit down the road of you, right?
It was about to come out.
Man. You know what? Yeah, I mean, I think Portland is dangerous.
Yeah,
I think Portland is a very dangerous team. Giovanni Savarese has done such a great job with this squad, giving them a little bit of that edge, the difference. I think Williamson is a huge player for them. He's come along such a long way from when he first started with the team. He was, I thought, MLS's back start of the tournament that nobody thought would be there. And they just have great chemistry with the Chara brothers, Mora up top. I mean, I think Portland could do some damage. So I'm going to put him up there as, a dangerous team. I'm not saying they're going to win the Cup. I'm just saying they're going to be a dangerous team.
They're in my top 3, too. I'll bail you out.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for me out here. In Minnesota, I think Minnesota is a very interesting team. I think Minnesota, without a doubt, with everything that we just said about them. I think that if they can put it all together, I think they should have been there last season as in the MLS Cup final. Yeah. So I do have them as my top three. I would love to say Atlanta. Hensei is a fantastic coach, and you could see it immediately, even if the strategy is not quite there yet, even if what he wants in the X's and O's perhaps hasn't completely came through. That identity, that tenacity, that is huge for this team. They needed that. They wanted that. That South American connection that Tata gave this team was key, was important. These guys are going to go out there and just give it all out on the field. And you see it already, including, the talent that they're bringing up from prospects to what they already have. Martinez coming back. I mean, I think they're going to be a very dangerous team.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're all really excited about Heinze and just the way everything is coming together. Santiago Sosa has earned a lot of new fans in Atlanta already coming over from River. Mm-hmm. Nico, let everybody know where they can follow you and find all your great work.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at ElRoloNW. That's ElRolonw. You could find my English work in Sounder Hard and my Spanish work at TUDN, which is MLS's Spanish site now. And, of course, Pulso Sports Network. That is my platform. I'm going to be putting my preview of the Sounders here pretty soon, which, as you guys can tell by what I said today, I am talking about some struggles here for the Sounders team. So Pulso Sports Network, PulsoSportsNetwork.com. That's our website, so please go ahead and follow us there.
Awesome. Nico, thank you so much for the time. We'll be catching up with you here in the next couple weeks, and just can't wait to get the MLS season started. I think it's going to be a fun year across the league.
I agree. I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this, as delayed as it was, and I think, like you said, it's going to be a fantastic season. So many good new players. I'm just excited. So thank you again for having me, guys. Let's make this happen again. Very grateful that you guys reached out. I follow you guys' work, and I'm just privileged to be here. I'm really happy that we could, talk and continue to be carriers of the MLS for the audience. So thank you so much.
We'll be doing more of this. Thank you so much, Nico. Have a good rest of the day.
Good, Nico.
Bye, guys.
Nico Moreno from Pulso Sports. Excellent stuff. Really excited to catch up with Nico all season long and talk more MLS from the Western Conference side of things. Very interesting that we, except for John, we're all on board with the Columbus, Minnesota, Portland top three. You had Philly in there; they're four for me.
None of them.
Yeah, it'll be nobody. It'll be like Vancouver.
If you wanted me to pick two from each conference, obviously Minnesota was my
and
other
Philly
team
is my number 4. So I think.
Even in Toronto or somebody just to piss me off.
Probably. Well, everybody in Atlanta, because obviously everybody in Atlanta hates Toronto, as we've learned over the last few days.
I know. I'm working on it. I'm working on a tier system for Atlanta's rivals per the request of the Discord. Instead of just hating on Toronto, it's just turned into a whole. Let's see where we sit with all the rivals and how
the levels
feels.
Of hatred ladder.
Pretty much, yeah.
That'll be very fun. All right, we've got to cut it not short because we've done a 2-hour show, which it feels like a 2-hour show now is short. But there are a lot of other things going on the rest of the day for me. We will have our first expanded AT&T countdown to kickoff for Atlanta United on the YouTube channel tomorrow, and we're putting together some special stuff, a special exclusive interview that we'll be doing here in a little bit, talking about a lot of things that maybe people have been asking questions about coming into this season. So stay tuned for that. Later today as well, I will be recording our Written on the Pitch podcast with Jessica Charman to get her take on leg 2 from Alajuelense, previewing Orlando, other things in the soccer world. We'll talk some U.S. women's national team as well. Tomorrow will be jam-packed as we preview everything. We will have the run-up tomorrow evening. Myself and Kelly Francis will get you ready for Orlando. We'll have Mike Conti on the show tomorrow morning and hopefully another guest or maybe two to get ready for the kickoff of MLS tomorrow night. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. Thank you to Wigglytuff, who popped in late in the show. Missed our Champions League talk. I was trying to catch up a little bit on some of our feelings in the chat. Hopefully you'll join us again, Wigglypuff. Hopefully all of the rest of you will join us as well. Thanks for hanging out with us. We will see you tomorrow. Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.
Mucho platio.